So I will start with a joke, but it's not a joke. You will have to suffer my French accent. Sorry for that. So I'm happy to be here, Chirac DevOps. So I will introduce myself briefly. I shared already sometimes at DevOps, but I just changed at Grupo Lusiaves like 3-4 months ago. So today I will be sharing about the past years there. So this is not the result of my work, it's what I've been doing and what I've learned there. And before I worked on DevOps at La Redoute, so we worked on DevOps transformation from low to elite performer. We invested a lot on continuous delivery, test automation, and we also managed to kill a mainframe by a modular architecture. And I'm personally passionate about quality engineering, specific team I'm working on. Oh, and I was saying, I changed at Grupo Lusiaves. So for the one of you that are not Portuguese, so what is written here is be careful, the cup don't always come by, so don't waste. And I thought it was a good image to share about FinOps. So we are about not wasting. Why there is that at the company? So we were talking about culture. So the company is producing chicken. Chicken is one of the most efficient protein as of today until we manage to scale the vegan part or other type of protein. But in fact, their challenge is to control the cost. Because even if we offer the best chicken, bio and everything that you can like, if it's 20 cents or 30 cents more, you don't buy it. So there is a high price sensitivity. So a lot of things in the company are linked to the don't waste, up to the coffee machine at the company, even if it's free for the people. But to share a bit about the company to give an idea of the growth, because before going there, I have no idea of the dimension, and I think it's important to understand where's the place of the IT in the group. So the company started in 86, so it was one company, a slaughterhouse, so specific jobs, but it was the business. And to give you an idea here, what you see in red, it's the size of the company after 20 years. So the growth in terms of business, in terms of number of people, and a lot of metrics you can find online. And right now, it's not only a poultry company, so there is more than 50 companies within the group, and you have companies on the entire value chain, but not also, and also outside of the value chain. So you have company at the beginning producing rations, agriculture, etc. Then we have some energy renewable energy company. We have retail and distribution, a bit like La Redoute, but it's only a part of it. And we have also a transport and logistic company around this whole ecosystem. The specificity, I like to say, it's like a microservice business architecture, because every business, most of them, in fact, collaborate with other companies outside. So they are very modular businesses. So quite interesting in terms of IT. And to give an idea of the group, so this is what we are producing in rations. This is the annual chicks production. The cars, for the cars fleet and the trucks. And this is, so we are producing different type of chicken, and this is the main product, so it's reaching 100 million as of now. So it's more than half of the Portuguese market, to give an idea. So we have to sell outside, else we have problem with the authority. And one part of the talk before digging into FinOps is to share about innovation and cost. I think we touched a bit the point just before. And thanks, Sergio, for the image. I didn't have it talked about it. So it's a bit, I think, the same challenge we have, right? Which comes first? Do you innovate to make money? Do you save money to innovate? How do you deal with that? It's a big challenge. And in fact, it's a challenge. Why? Because it's a dilemma. So on one side, you need to innovate, but when you try to innovate, you have a lot of uncertainty. So in fact, you will try to add stuff, create something new. You will waste. I'll put sometimes, maybe most of the time, in fact, because you have a high uncertainty. And you will want to experiment without knowing the result before. And on the other side, so you want to reduce cost. You have a lot of negative words. So reduce, avoid, limit. So everything that impede you to do what you should do with innovation. And I think what challenge we were talking the previous talk about the C-level awareness, etc. I think before talking about finance, we have still a lot of companies that are seeing IT on the code you see above. So IT is a cost center. So your job as a CIO or whatever is, you see that bunch of money, you should reduce it. And innovation, try. You are not a good CIO if you are not able to innovate. So just make it, but optimize everything. So I think one big change we have to make before is, if people are not ready, you need to start with what is in parentheses to say IT has cost, but is becoming the business. If you are more people that are seeing what is coming, they say IT is the business, so we should start to liberate more investment to cloud innovation. And it's not only about hiring a chief digital officer to compete with the CIO, it's about changing the way people are building software. And in fact, how I see optimization and cloud innovation, I think when we are pre-season onwards, we see things a bit differently. How I see cost optimization is about removing the waste. So you should not remove, there is a limit on the waste, we'll see where it is. You need to avoid luxury, and I think in technology, I have seen it, I have done it sometimes also. We like the last technology, the last big stuff, great, but does the business need really that level of complexity? For example, we talk about Kubernetes, I believe most companies don't need it. And you need also to limit commitments, so cost optimization is not only how do I waste less money today. Sometimes if you commit too much the company, and I was talking about uncertainty, you can be in quite complex situation, especially in the cloud when they want to make you 3-year commitment on your future costs that you don't really know what they will be. So, and then on innovation, so your goal is to innovate value, so a bit like the other, you are not there for playing. You need to start small to limit the cost, and you need to experiment to adapt. And I think it's really where DevOps is coming in, and the FinOps cycle inside. So your job is to liberate first part of the investment, changing the awareness, manage to create valuable innovation, and then you can start to make the loop and start to inverse the cycle. Because normally most of companies don't have easy money coming from the outside to invest in innovation. They have that fixed amount of resource, and you have to deal with that to transform. And I think this is where FinOps can help a lot. So FinOps can help on the left part to say, how can I optimize my cost to start use that amount to start to create value. And in fact, I was wondering sometime why we start to talk that much about FinOps, because we are 20 years after all the on-premise stuff, technology is good, pay as you go, all innovation, technology is cheaper, storage is cheaper, right? So why should we invest in FinOps? It should be easy. So I think how I see the cloud for me is this. So imagine an hotel and resort. So if you go 1 week or 2 weeks in holidays with your family, it's good. You go to the bar, you pay extra, you enjoy, you are on the luxury part, yeah? The problem with the cloud is that it's like living at the hotel with your family all the year, and you pay all the extra. So this is a big problem with the cloud, and how we see it is like every minute counts. It's ready. It's sometimes even seconds on AWS, etc. They start to bill you at the seconds. So the main problem you have to optimize is how do you optimize your minutes to produce value for the company. So at Grupo Lusiaves, to give an idea, so we are more SMB type of company. So we were in the up to 600K, we are on the million of cloud spend. And to give an idea of where we come from, so you remember at the beginning the cup, don't waste the cup, yeah. So the IT up to a bit before 2017, so the company was making more than 200 million. There was 2 people at the IT. So you remember IT as a cost center, so you have what? 1 guy for the IT support, for all laptop support, telephones, network, everything. Yeah, complex. And 1 guy doing COBOL for the ERP supporting all companies. Quite efficient, a bit too lean I think, but it worked for a long time. After they started to integrate other types of technology to support better the business, to consolidate the group on similar solutions. So they invested in, I would say, traditional platform for this type of group and industry. So they put SAP on core business processes. So MW, they put a middleware platform. They put a data platform, the one and report. It was all Excel with COBOL, etc. And they reached IT application around 50. It was the same time as 2017 when we started to have 3 big players in the cloud. We are a bit talking Alibaba, European cloud, 6 years later, nothing. And there was a bit more people in the IT. And just to remember at that time, I was working at Cloudwood at that time when we were seeing the Gartner, etc. It was the cloud is the future, but no one wants to go. Everyone was fearing about risk, governance, data, and the guys that don't follow things were, what is the cloud? It was happening. But in fact, the company like technology, like to progress, so they invested quite early in the cloud, so they migrated quite their full infrastructure to the cloud in 2018, so they went full AWS. As the team was quite small, so there was the internal IT, a cloud managed service provider, and the public cloud provider directly working with them, as it was the first customer, in fact, one of the first customers in Portugal. And we have our president, so we are talking about C-level. So he didn't ask us make FinOps. He asked us costs are high, innovation is shit, so make twice with half. I say it to all directors, so IT is not an exception. Yeah, so you remember the cup, you start to connect the dots. Yeah. So FinOps model, you got everything online, so I will share a bit what was the journey in that FinOps model at the group. So how we see it, it's some variation. We set the foundation, we remove the waste, and we are starting to optimize for real time. It's really only the premise, but I will focus more on what we have done on the first 2 points. So first part, a bit like if you build software, if you don't know what are your application, your flows, everything, you're at a bad place to start. So the first step was to build the master data referential of what do we have in terms not only of servers, because if you've talked only about servers, the next question is which application run on it. And then when you want to ask someone, can I reduce the cost on that? Can I change that? If you don't know who it is, you are too slow. So it's not only your CMDB of VMs, EC2, etc. It's really infrastructure linked to application. And if you are lucky, business owner, not easy to have in organization today. And the work then you have to do, it's not only to build an Excel once. The goal is to build a referential, can be an Excel, whatever, that is able to be updated. So we are in a DevOps community. We like things that are continuous. So you don't want to do like during 2 months an Excel with a lot of formula, etc. And 3 months later, or even 3 weeks, a lot of things that change in your cloud and your things is completely up to date. So you need to build something that will last. So one way you can achieve that is you can normalize first your data of your infrastructure, etc. And then you need to work on the cost allocation and tagging. So we had one question before, what changed for the infrastructure? When you start FinOps, a lot of organizations don't have tags on the resource, etc. to know exactly what it is. They didn't think about that. It was not a requirement. So really the first part and very structuring. If you don't have that, for me, you fail at most of the other part of the FinOps model because you don't know and you are not master of what you have, what you are spending. The next step is to be master of your cost. So you know what you have, then you need to be master of your cost. So at the beginning, we got the bill from AWS, but there was some issues, but we didn't know about it at the beginning. So then we got the bill that were worked by the managed service provider. But then we discovered after there was quite a lot of issue. So when we start to play with different tools, so cloud export, our master data referential crossing the data, the managed service provider tool and the cloud, we started to be able to be quite confident about our master data. And to give an idea, we got some credit notes at 40K euro due to errors in billing. So you can win already a lot of money just doing the basic stuff. Because if people do an error, they will not tell you because, we didn't see it. And then at the first part, so something interesting as a group, they invested quite early in the cloud governance. So there was 2 types of governance. So one, in would say a free party between the group, the managed service provider and the public cloud directly. So it was also a luck to have the public cloud provider at that time. So this was also very good to go fast on this point because we had all people in the same time, you know, the cost of hands-off and delays. And something interesting is that, so the core infrastructure team were trained, so it was 2 people in IT. And I don't have the background why, but I was surprised by that. The company at the beginning have already, so someone from the finance department, so not from IT, from the financial controlling, was trained on FinOps by AWS guy. So he was trained on 2 things, in fact, to IT, because he didn't know about compute, etc. And then he was trained also for FinOps part by AWS, and he's still working with us today. And we started a bit of communication to build awareness, but we already have our big boss with make twice with half, who is asking when do we start to win money. So no need to communicate and to make him aware, it was just to show results, in fact. And this was the first step, so really, we shared a bit before about the foundation. These two for us are the most, I would say, important, and you need to build them not for the first steps, but for your entire journey. And then we started to remove the waste, so the migration was quite fast, in fact, and with a small team, they didn't have all the time to prepare. So if you know the cloud migration model, you have, I think, 6 or 7 strategies when you take some workloads. The reality is for vast majority of workload, you don't have the time to migrate everything. So, or to lift and shift for most of them, but you don't have the time to re-architect everything. So a lot of work was done there, and this is the core of the FinOps work, what you have the foundation, which I will be sharing the roadmap, but what you see here took about 2 years to do all the cleaning. So they remove non-needed application. If you have a company with a specific size, you will have non-needed application, but no one knows about it because they don't have the referential and they don't know who owns the application. Then they did a big work on the non-production environment and non-business hours, so I did a deep dive on this here. So they make like 2 big buckets on non-production environment. They say, okay, we have like critical system when everyone needs it to test during the day, so we will keep them only when people are working. So if you see the hour between lunchtime, 1 to 2, the environment are down. And they're also down at night and at the weekend. So it's like SAP, middleware, and like this core platform, like everyone needs to work. And then all the other ones are off by default. And if you want to use it, you have to ask, and there is a self-service portal and an approval workflow, etc. And people have also an idea of the cost of the things they are asking, in fact. So if they ask, we had some cases, they want the environment for 1 week to test, and when we ask them, are you sure that you need $2,000 or euro for the full week to test? I will do my test in half a day. And this is when you start to bridge the feedback loop, and it's very interesting on that. They win a lot of money doing that because every minute counts. So if you can remove the every minute counts on a lot of time where no one is working, you win a lot of money. And then a lot of things that are more technical, but that you need to have this master data referential to share with product team, software team, etc. to know what can I do, when can I do it, to optimize the performance, etc. So saving plans, reservation, resizing of the environment. You have mass of money to save on storage, network. This is where the cloud provider are making a lot of money. So everything that is in fact, from your perspective, you don't see it. So storage, snapshot, network, idle IP, idle load balancer, shared resource. Things it's hard to see. They like it because it's like spread and it's hard to understand. So here, a big work was done. It took around 2 years to do this type of cleaning. And after we went to the second type of optimization, which is resource allocation strategy. So a lot of work was done here on the backup and disaster recovery plan. So due to the many companies and different IT systems, we have also high, low RPO and RTO, so the time to recover and in case of disaster. So in fact, we had like a backup main data in Ireland because it's cheaper. And then we had some backups in Spain because it's nearby Portugal, but not for more reasons than that. And the fact that when you do continuous backup of all your different applications, you pay for all the traffic from Ireland to Spain. And when you do continuous regular restore of the data, you do again the same. So in fact, you need to be careful about that. It's a trade-off because after, if you start to do the disaster recovery between Ireland and UK, if there is a bomb, most probably everything goes down. So you need to be careful and to adjust the cursor on what works well. A big work was done on the idle resource on applications. So this is quite complex theme on FinOps. I recommend to get expertise on that to do it properly. And also, so hidden cost. I didn't put it, so network here, but security also. We started to have a lot of cost on security, the cost of the scan, the cost of the alert, and all this type of stuff that are normally hidden if no one is looking properly at it. And with all of this big block, remove the waste, the yearly bill of the cloud was reduced by 30%, so quite a lot of money compared to the size of the company and what they are used to waste, in fact. What we are working on right now is really, I think, where DevOps will help us much more is to have much more shorter feedback loop with more accuracy in what we are doing. So our target is to have 5 to 7% variance between what we think we will waste and the actual cloud spend. Quite hard to do as you have a lot of variation, network cost, etc. You have price of resource that change quite every day. So we are working on that, focusing for now on the most costly resources. Something we are not working at right now, it's not a theme unfortunately for this year, is to automate better the cloud cost management FinOps. So we have a lot of data, we could optimize better the non-production environment, etc. But we need more engineering capacity. So right now we put that as a backlog. And we are more focusing on the governance. So in fact, we have like a good reactive approach on a 2 weeks basis, in fact, because we have a cloud spend, we have all the update, etc. So we manage to, I would say, recover and adapt quite on the big projects. But the thing is that we are doing many more smaller projects. So it's harder to spot change in the system if you don't have a strong governance. So again, a bit like FinOps need a master referential. I'm investing in a strong software delivery process governance to inject FinOps as part of it, like we would inject security or this type of requirement, in fact. And we will focus on 2 parts, FinOps by design. So consider financial part as part of the requirement. So like other one, it's not the main one, but it's one of them. And then to include them into the review. So we make some review like similar to architecture review. You have one problem, you have maybe 2 free solutions to solve it. Part of the solution you see, you need to consider the financial impact of each of them. So, and to give the idea of the journey, so I hope it will be 2 years also to reach that level, but they started quite early in the cloud, so they were able to build that stuff. I think companies right now can go faster. You have the FinOps foundation. You have much more tool by the cloud provider, because that's first, why the cloud provider will give you the tool to spend less. So there was delaying this type of cloud control tool for the customer. So I think, yeah, you can go quite faster right now, but this is the journey, and we are accelerating in terms of number of applications, etc. So it's a never-ending journey, as you were sharing. So, and we have to be much stronger with the growth. So in terms of retrospective for us and things that you may leverage, so good, master referential, early awareness of the business, not only IT, but really the business. Dedicated someone on FinOps, so in our case it was a financial controller, it's not really the theme. I think to have someone dedicated and more than 1 people trained. There will be turnover in our days, so prepare for that. And we had also, I would say, a luck to have the direct link with the cloud provider, so all the team were able to access some, not in alpha, but beta products for all the FinOps part. Failures. So we are talking about including FinOps as part of the design. So our sharing, we had 3 parties, the customer, us, the cloud provider, and the managed service provider in the middle. How was the contract with these people? They are paid X% of the monthly bill. So they have no incentive for you to waste less money. This is why it was quite hard to, at first, to get their help, because if they succeed at FinOps, they will lose quite a lot of money. So they started to change, and I'm changing the contract, but it's like, and when it's signed for 3 years, we are quite locked. So then it comes to system incentive. This is one of them. You can also, if you have the power to influence or decide, why not putting as part of your product team, software team, some objective on FinOps to reduce the cost, to optimize, or to participate in the process. Failure is a change governance. The group did not have a strong software delivery process, but I think if it's not robust enough, make it robust before to add FinOps. And the accurate forecasting is quite hard, but for me, the consequence of the change governance mainly, in fact. So what's next for us? So I consider that we are in the work phase, like the majority of companies today in FinOps. It's the data of the FinOps foundation. what we want to be in for next year is to be as part of the leading. So traditional stuff, innovation, speed, cut cost, etc. I think some things that we don't talk that much, I think in IT for now, except the marketing to attract some engineers, it's about sustainability. But sustainability will be the next regulation we will have to cope in IT. And IT spend, infrastructure spend are a big part. So investing in FinOps is also a very good way to be prepared for this next problem, because what will come, we will have to pay tax on the CO2 and all the emissions. So if you are not able to measure it, you will have fines. So FinOps could also be a good point, not only for innovation speed, but also to avoid tax and contribute to a better world. So, and to conclude on how DevOps can help for FinOps, I think we always need to be careful when we focus on something. We tend to sur-optimize it to the detriment on other stuff. So if we look at the FinOps funnel, if you ask someone, work on FinOps, make twice with half, etc., what they will do, they will start to remove the waste, they will optimize the cost, and there is a danger zone they will start to pass. They will impede people to work properly because they have objective to cut cost. You see, and then they will block the fast flow we are looking for. So I think really the force of DevOps for me is to focus and create the culture and the governance to remain on that healthy part of FinOps, which is you remove waste, you optimize cost on a continuous basis as part of the IT change, and you avoid getting in this negative part, but in fact you are just limiting your cloud innovation. And that's the journey I wanted to share with you today.
So you mentioned sustainability. How are you planning to tackle that? Because as far as I know, for example, on AWS that you mentioned, their reports, their public reports, don't show that data. So how are you going to be able to say if you're sustainable, for example, on the CO2 emissions and so on?
Yeah, but so if we are sustainable, I don't know the regulations that will come, but we need to measure it. So we already have third-party tools. We are trying some third-party tools, but they are very beta. I think we have the same problem as with cloud spend. So before, we are not able to optimize cloud spends because the cloud costs were not understandable. You did not have access to the export, etc. So for me, I think we need three types of forces. We need to have regulation upcoming. Some countries are starting. And we need to have a better maturity of the ecosystem. So for me, cloud provider they will mandatory to provide, and then we'll have to have, as it's a business that is coming, sustainability will bring money. You will have players, startups that will try to produce tools because a lot of people are hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, so they will not want like a control tower to see the cost, CO2 emission and water and whatever across the data center. So on our side, this is one part we are planning to. We have the other challenge of the sustainability measurement across the value chain, which is an even more complex problem to tackle. So I think it will be hard times. But for the cloud provider, cloud part, I'm quite confident that the ecosystem will provide the tools. It's so massive that it's not us, a small company in Portugal, that will disrupt the market with the tool. I think the market will provide.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I think one of the first slides about monitoring, it's quite low level. So it was like AWS quick sites. What could be like because they have already like I think Cost Explorer where you can query like and use tags and stuff like that. So what are like additional benefits perhaps for using AWS quick sites instead of the Cost Explorer?
Well, I'm not working directly in the FinOps, but the key points we are doing is you need to build your master, so you need to consolidate different data sources to be quite sure about what you have, and if you have variants, know why, in fact. So for me, it's more that we are doing, but you are right, I think this tool is quite discontinued, reduce its usage to the benefit of the Cost Explorer and other tool, and as we want to optimize cloud costs from the provider, we prefer to use it as one of the input, but to rely on other sources, in fact, because we know that it's not always the best source.
Thank you.
Thank you for the talk. I'm actually curious because I understand that you process like a lot of different data from different sources. You integrate a lot of things to create some like dashboards and then make some decisions based on that. I'm wondering if you, do you consider like all of the data and in its confidentiality as like some kind of a security risk, or do you think it's like there are plenty of other more valuable things around, and the security is not that big concern?
You're talking about the FinOps data, you mean?
Yes, yes.
If it's a problem to share with people, etc.
Yes. It can be available to everyone. It can be, limited to the
Yeah, so no, it's not public company-wide. In fact, so some key people have the finance head, for example, financial controllers, they know the cost of everything. After, so for example, the direct reports in IT, they know the entire cost of the cloud, the cloud spend, and they know the repartition per team, for example, to also know what we have, etc., the big differences, because sometimes you have like a data platform and you have like a back office application which is not moving. So it's like so different realities that you cannot compare, but at least people know this type of amount. After, what we share is with the business people that ask the non-production environment. Here we say your request will cost this amount of money. So we don't say the monthly cost for the application or is this one. We just say, if you're asking for 5 days, this is the cost. Yeah, are you sure? We don't challenge to say you don't need it. We just say, this is the cost. Is it worth it?
So it's like based on a need to know kind of approach. Okay, thank you.
Hello. I don't know if you know 37signals.com. It's a company, US company. And I saw a post some time ago where the CEO has moved everything from the cloud to the data center in order to save costs. So he told that it took 6 months to make all this transition, and that it would save about 1.5 million. Do you know how much do you save, or are you paying more for not having?
But for us, the topic is that we are small. The ecosystem is changing fast. So committing to say, I will buy that much hardware for 3, 4, 5 years for application, I don't know how I will build them. And we want to keep our organization focused on the core business. And our core business right now, it's not the digital part, it's the IT to support the business. So we don't have, I say, the scale to say, because if I do that, I need a big IT team of infrastructure, etc., to manage fleet of server and stuff like that. And probably at the moment, this amount of money will be best used for other stuff, for new innovation, etc. And I think for our size and our context of the business, this is not the topic. I think for specific industries, this is quite relevant. If you know Criteo, the thing when you search on Google and then you go on a site, you have all the ads. They have all the time all the infrastructure on premise, because their business is on the digital part. Every second counts, and if they are like paid, they have to pay for all the traffic, the billing, etc. It will impact their margin on a high cost, and it's one big product they can scale on massive servers. In fact, so for me, I think on very small, even the size, it's questionable, but really depend on what the IT is for in the company. And in our context, we are keeping the local infrastructure for the manufacturing sites where we need the local continuity and specific software that are there, but it's very small in fact.